Everything you need to know about Section 301 tariffs. In April of 2018, the current administration announced that it would impose increased tariffs on items imported from China. By April of 2018, the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative, USTR, released the first list of 1,300 tariff numbers subject to an additional 25% duty. That list was referred to as U.S. List 1. The $34 billion tariff action went into effect on July 6, 2018, and included steel and aluminum. The USTR announced that this would be subsequently followed by List 2 and List 3. While the first list forced U.S. manufacturers to negotiate the added cost by either cutting back in other areas or passing the price on to consumers, the subsequent lists make it harder on the U.S. importer and pose a significant financial implication to the consumer directly. Taking effect on August 23, 2018, U.S. List 2 includes not only plastic and electrical items used in manufacture, but also motors, generators, and motorcycles. This round of Chinese-imposed tariffs hit U.S. importers harder, a $16 billion action, and ultimately the consumers began to feel the effect. U.S. List 3 took effect on September 24, 2018, and has had a significant impact on the importing community. This latest round was initiated with additional 10% tariffs immediately, which increased for most of those items to 25% by June 15, 2019. The list includes $200 billion worth of imports from China and covers almost 6,000 HTS numbers. If you are an importer from China but had not been affected by List 1 or 2, this third list most likely impacted your business. The Office of the U.S. Trade Representative opened an exclusion process for List 3 products in June of 2019. The requests for exclusion required a significant amount of information and must be submitted to CBP via an online portal. At this time, USTR has granted 10 HTS exclusions, all of which are product-specific. Those exceptions include, but are not limited to, plastic containers, plastic caps and lids, kayak paddles, inflatable boats, kayaks and canoes, and polyester yarn. All of these exclusions were granted retroactively to September 24, 2018, and will remain in effect for 1 year from the date of the exclusion determination. List 4 was created and broken into Part A and Part B. List 4 products were originally due to incur a 25% additional duty rate in May of 2019, when U.S.-China talks were not going as planned. Once talks started heading in the right direction, they postponed the tariffs. In August, it was announced that they would proceed with the imposition, and they were scheduled to begin to take effect in September. As of September 1st, List 4A took effect with an initial 10% tariff. List 4B is set to follow on 12/15/2019. The combined List 4 covers essentially all commodities that have not yet been subject to the 301 tariffs. These products include all apparel, footwear, and manufactured textile products. There are 25 products that have recently been removed from List 4 due to health, safety, and national security reasons. These items will not see any additional tariffs. These products include pharmaceuticals, medical goods, and rare earth minerals and critical minerals. The USTR has now identified certain products from the EU that will also be subject to additional duty rates of either 10% or 25%, effective on October 18th. The 10% will apply mostly to aircraft from France, Germany, Spain, and the UK. Imports affected by the 25% will vary by country. The UK will see a 25% additional duty on many types of clothing and bedding. Coffee, hand machinery, and books from Germany will be subject to the additional 25%. Also, there is an extensive list of food items from numerous EU countries that will see an additional 25% tariff on October 18th. At this point, it's unclear if those additional tariffs will be refundable under duty drawback. As a U.S. importer, you may already be suffering the ramifications of this trade war and incurring the financial impact of this global standstill. But rest assured, there are actions you can take. Review that you are not paying inaccurate duties, rethink your sourcing, or setting up a program to refund those duties if your imported product is being exported. As an importer, it is now more important than ever to be sure that you have properly classified your products. The process of classifying imports is very complex and takes on an added significance with the 301 tariffs. The classification process is extremely detailed and requires an understanding of both the HTS-US as well as the merchandise being classified. Every product that enters the United States must be classified according to the Harmonized Tariff Schedule of the United States, or the HTS-US. There are over 10,000 classifications in the HTS that are broken down by sections, chapters, headings, and ultimately subheadings. We do not want to give the impression that everything is misclassified, and in fact, we have found that 90% of imported merchandise is actually classified properly. But of that 10% that is improperly classified, 80% has resulted in the overpayment of duties. An importer should initiate periodic reviews of the classification of merchandise. CBP reviews merchandise on a daily basis and writes hundreds, if not thousands, of rulings as to their position on how individual items should be classified. As these change over time, an importer should review their classification regularly in order to remain compliant and up to date. A specific item classified under one HTS number last year might have a totally different HTS number today. In conjunction with the additional 301 tariff implication and the impending EU engagement, it is the legal responsibility of the importer to find and assign the appropriate classification for every item that they import. Many companies entrust their customs brokers to do this work, but the ultimate accountability falls on the actual importer to use the correct 10-digit code. HTS errors are the most common type of mistakes found by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. The imposition of the 301 tariffs now and the EU that are coming make the process of classification critically more important. At ITM, we have a team of tariff managers with over 100 years combined experience that can review your imports to confirm their accuracy. Once the proper classification has been assigned, you will need to determine if your imported item is included on one of the 301 tariff lists, which is, at this point, very likely. These lists identify which items coming from China are subjected to additional duties and how much those duties are. Should your items already be on one of those active lists or on an impending list, you should determine your available options. The biggest question to ask is, can you claim duty drawback on the items? Drawback is eligible on the 301 tariffs. Should your items qualify for the benefit of drawback, those additional duties can be drawn back in a program. For an importer that has never paid duties before, the 301 tariffs can be daunting. For an importer that has been paying duty, the increased duty can be financially overwhelming. The good news is that with the exception of U.S. List 1, U.S. companies can claim that additional duty back with a duty drawback program. If you are importing items from China that are ultimately exported, it is now more important than ever to establish a drawback program. There are options when it comes to filing drawback on goods from China that allow an exporter to refund 99% of those duties. While the future of the Section 301 tariffs is unknown, importers should be mindful of their impact and plan for their permanence. The reality is that companies are becoming forced to absorb these additional charges and/or pass them on to their consumers. Ultimately, this increases U.S. companies' inability to remain competitive with each other as well as in a global market. It is imperative that you make sure that you are doing everything you can to guarantee that you are not paying inaccurate duties due to misclassification, and that you explore every opportunity to get reimbursed for these additional fees. ITM can help. We are currently assisting dozens of companies to navigate the 301 tariffs and take advantage of all reduction or rebate opportunities. Give us a call today for a no-cost analysis of your circumstances.